Buddy, to our special edition of Three Dad Bods with Brent, Carl, and Sean. Kind of together for the first time in 25 years. You look like you're like soaring over me now. This is a little uneasy here. I don't want you to sit up. Quit slouching. We just came down here. We had the funeral for one of our very good friends, Glynn Ralph. And we want to just take a few moments and share some thoughts and, kind of talk about what we've been doing together down here.
Yeah.
Kind of enjoy it. So
this is the first time we've been together since Mark's funeral 24 years ago. All three of us in the same room
together. Together. We've seen each other individually. We just haven't hung out collectively.
And probably want to wait another 24 years. No, I'm just kidding.
It has to do with the law and restraining orders and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But, for a moment we were able to get through that stuff. So
I survived the weekend.
Carl was in jail.
Why don't you start off with some thoughts and stuff?
Okay.
Your arm around Brent.
It took me a second. Sorry, Sean. It took me a second to. There we go. It took me a second to make the decision, but I decided to I'll let it go and come down for the experience. Last few years, I've been a little, I don't know, what you'd say, kind of playing it safe, and so
in a rut.
I made some decisions last week, and I think they're good decisions long term, but
great decisions.
I left my job. I felt 8 years of misery was enough, and so I am now free again and ready to conquer the next 20 years of my life. But this whole funeral thing kind of made me reflect on a lot of things in my life, and this was one of the reasons I made the decision. But then these two numbskulls were going to be down here, and I couldn't miss an opportunity to be with them. So, but anyway, at the funeral, it was kind of a tough experience because I didn't have a lot of time to reflect on the way down. It was an amazing flight. Everything went perfect, and then I was here. And so I was a little agitated, as those two could see. Glenn and I were pretty close for at least the first 15 or 16 years of my life. But then it was just surreal being here at the funeral. And I don't like funerals. They're hard for me. It's just, everybody's painting a picture that's different than the picture of that person.
You mean they're lying?
No, they're not lying. It's just a different representation.
Views of different people's lives.
Yeah. I know Glenn, the old Glenn that I grew up with, Glenn, the one I got in trouble with, Glenn, the goofy guy, Glenn. And then
he was the same goofy guy.
Yeah, he was, but it's just a different version of him, the one that we don't normally see. Yeah. And so, but it was cool too, because I like to hear the stories during the funeral. But it's, he's not there, and then today when we buried it, or yesterday when we buried him, it was just, I could just feel that chapter in my life ending, and saying goodbye was nice, but, I felt like I was there for his family, and Kenlyn and Danny and Mark, I know you guys watch our podcast, and we love you guys, and we're going to miss that guy. And that's all. That's really why I was there. And then, of course, this weekend's been a good weekend to reconnect with these guys in person, even though we do it on the podcast all the time. It's really nice to hang out. All three of us have had either individual or discussions together that you just don't have normally. And so, I'm glad I didn't miss this weekend. So thanks, Brent, for pushing me to be uncomfortable. I appreciate that.
It's funny because Brent always makes me uncomfortable.
I have that effect on people.
I've been uncomfortable the whole weekend. Anyway, go ahead, Sean.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. I thought Brent was going first.
Oh.
So for me, it was nice to hear the people that cared about Brent that are outside of our circle of friends. What did I say?
Brent.
Oh. Well, thank you, everybody, for caring about me. I really do appreciate that.
Sean's great on live TV. But anyway, go ahead.
Should we edit that out?
No, it's great. It's awesome.
It's fantastic.
I said Brent, really?
That's us, buddy.
It's okay.
That's us.
You know what?
They're just gonna laugh at you.
It's getting older. I can't even keep my kids. I can't keep my kids' names straight. My dog is my kid. I can't do it. Anyway, my mom did that, so now here I am. All right. Anyway, so for Glynn, it was really nice to hear the people who love Glynn outside of our relationship with him, and to see that he was a very, very consistent person. He not only was he who he is with us, he was who he was with them, and he was very kind. He did things for people. He was known as someone who served others constantly and was never asking for anything in return. And, that's a good, it's just we're older guys now, not necessarily needing someone to show us what to do anymore in life, but he represents the best kind of person that any of us can be, someone who's willing to help other people when they need it. And that was really nice. So, and saying goodbye was hard. But I had a little bit different experience with that than you guys, because I got to spend time with him pretty much every day of the last couple of weeks of his life. I didn't feel like I had anything to say goodbye to, because I had already done it.
I just thought he had a little more time, because last time I got to talk to him in person was at lunch up in Utah about a month before that he died. And so he was still expecting to be around another year.
He at that time, yeah. Even so that a few days before he told the world, I knew, and we were talking about things, and he fully expected to be around that 4 to 6 week period, and it ended up being something like 8 days instead. That was not, he didn't expect that. But
Sean, we really appreciated, I really did, that Thursday morning call. I was going to go to Phoenix last week to see him before he passed. And obviously he was planning on moving along faster than I thought. And so that morning I decided to stay home, and Sean called me and he texted me. He just said, Glenn's taking his last breaths. And that's when it just hit me like a brick wall, my friend's going. And I was a little disappointed, because I wanted that one last chance, maybe a little selfish of me, but I just wanted an opportunity to say goodbye. But I did. I had many opportunities to say goodbye to him. So I realized it wasn't, I wasn't losing out on anything. And I know he knew deep down I loved him and cared about him. And so that Thursday was a very difficult day for me. I took a long time to sort through it, but I appreciate Sean being able to give us kind of a blow actually of what was going on in the room, and to hear Kenlyn had one last time to hug her husband and her true love. It made me.
it was
tough.
It was sweet to see a woman crawl into bed with her husband as he was taking his last breaths and holding him.
The thing I thought about was, he came into this world in the arms of the woman who loved him most, and he left this world in the arms of the woman that he loved the most.
That's good.
Yeah.
And
it's an interesting.
A lot of people don't get that.
No.
That's an incredible ending. It's a special ending.
And his kids were there. They all held him in the moments after.
Yeah. That was tough.
It was very touching to be part of that moment.
Yeah.
To be honest. But I don't know if I've told you guys this yet, but in the couple of days before, he and I, we were talking, and he wanted very much. Sorry, he very much wanted his friends that weren't there. He wanted you all to know how much he loved you, and the importance that you all played in his life. So he asked me to pass it along to you guys, to his friends that aren't here with us now. He just really wanted his friends from childhood to know how much he loved you all. And so it's my privilege to pass that along for you all. And he did. It was genuine.
Yeah.
Wow. And I apologize. That's not something that I do.
No, I haven't seen you get teary-eyed ever until this last weekend, the last week.
Yeah, it's hard to say goodbye to somebody you love. Brett and I were talking earlier. There are a couple people from our neighborhood that we literally have no memories of before. We don't remember anything in life before we had memories that included a couple of others. And Brent and Glenn are those two guys because we were born in the same neighborhood. I literally don't have memories before these guys, so it's a very unusual thing to have had privileges of knowing these guys and you guys as well for so many years. So it's just an extension of family, and that's why it's so hard to lose one of you. And unfortunately, we've lost two of our closest friends, and then several others that were in the neighborhood that were a year or two older than us. So
I thought it was good seeing Mark, seeing Dan, and people who I haven't even honestly thought about in such a long time, and be able to talk to them and share some memories and stuff. And it's Glenn's passing has brought a different type of reflection into my life. I think we're extremely fortunate to be able to hear his story. He was able to share his story, a lot of things that I was not aware of.
So brave.
That really inspired me in a different way. And, it's a story of courage. It's a story of determination. And it's a story that people need to hear. And I'm so glad that we're able to have that, to where, if I come across somebody who's just been diagnosed with cancer, it's a scary time. It's frightening. But I want to be able to share his story of hope, of determination, and it doesn't matter what doctors and everybody says. You can do what you want to do when you put your mind to it. It's a fantastic story. I think back to 24 years ago when we were together last, and with Mark when we laid him to rest. We were different people. We were in our 20s. We were in our early 20s. We had a different mindset of things. We all had very young families. Sean had just barely had, his child. You had one on the way. I had one, 3 months afterwards. We were different people, and didn't look at that event the same way that I look at the event of today. And we've had a lot of deep conversations as the three of us have been down here on, how do we want to be remembered? How do we want to go about the rest of our lives? And so in looking at Glenn's life, it's honestly given me a different direction of a way that I can help bring people hope, promise, faith into challenges, not only with cancer, but
any kind of disease.
Any type of disease, any type of
sorrow.
even event, and even with what you're going through yourself, Carl, new way, new focus in life and stuff. You can do it. You absolutely can, and it's how we look at what is in front of us and how we tackle the situation in front of us.
Self-determination that he had was and should be really inspiring to anybody who knows the story.
And I think, if I could say, the way to look at Glynn is Glynn didn't live with cancer. Cancer lived with Glynn.
That's a good way
Up to the very last moment. Who goes on a bike ride when you have 4 weeks to live and goes 20 miles? Glynn does.
It's crazy.
And the day before he was on water skiing.
Yes. And he did not allow a sickness to be who he is. And it's incredible.
I know a lot about
that is absolutely incredible. And I hope that when my time comes, when I'm to my last few moments, I can still maintain and have that same determination of still living up to the very last second.
I want to expand on what Brent's saying too. One of the things that Glynn communicated to me in text right before, the last couple of weeks of his life, he was spent with his family, which was what he's supposed to do. And but one thing he communicated to me, and Glynn and I, when we were younger, had some deep conversations, but lately we hadn't, and this one turned deep quick. And one of the things he says, my biggest fear is the dash between when I was born and when I die.
Which is kind of profound.
Yeah.
Which is unusual for
Which is exactly what, before you even showed me that text, that's what you and I started talking about last night. I don't want to be remembered as dates.
Well, and my response to him was a flood of, dude, I will always remember your example. I said, that's one of the reasons I felt like we needed to interview you. And I said, because of, Sean and Glynn, I'd known about these two cancer. He overcame cancer twice, but I didn't know the whole story, of course. And I've known Glynn his whole life, and so I knew where he started, and I know where he's at the end. It's an amazing story of a man who wasn't given a whole lot to start out in life, who created this wonderful life. You heard it at the funeral. This beautiful life that he and Kenlyn created with their family. And the fact that it just reminded me of the parable in the New Testament when Christ was talking about the talents that he gave 3 men. And Glynn took his 1 or 2 talents and he doubled and tripled, quadrupled.
I don't know if you remember when we were interviewing him, he said, we just know if your last name is Ralph, you're called to serve.
Yeah. His life is a parable to my family, and I will teach my grandkids about a man I knew and I grew up with that was a great example of the parable of talents, one that I personally can witness and tell other people about. And so I think Glynn's dash is an incredible dash, one that, like Brent said, made an impression on me, an example to me now for the rest of my life. And like Brent was talking about, my life's not over yet. The Lord, it's just like Glynn said in our podcast, every day is a blessing from God, right?
It's true.
And I guess that's really what I need to do, is start looking at the rest of my life that way and not be afraid to live it and to get out there and enjoy it. Anyway.
Well, good job, guys. And great seeing you guys.
Yeah.
Rachel behind the camera, thank you for spending the day
Rachel,
with us today.
Yeah.
Fantastic. It's like you said, we get together, we talk quite a bit. It's not often at all that we get to be together, and it kind of brings out the kids in us.
Yeah,
brings back a lot of memories that we can sit back and talk. And I think that's the important thing is, and I hope, those of you that kind of listen to our podcast that have been with us and stuff, I hope it sparks memories with you guys and the fun times and stuff that we were able to share together. And For Glynn, thank you again for that example that you left, and you'll be greatly missed, but you will not ever be forgotten.
Never.
What we're going to do the rest of this episode is going to be a rebroadcast in video of our interview with Glynn, and at the very end is a special tribute from his friends from the Writing Club that I had permission to share with our audience as well. And please share this video with those that you love, or
anybody who's struggling.
Yeah.
And then you have an interpretive dance of our events through this week, don't you, that you're putting at the end of the video?
No.
I must have misunderstood that.
Yeah.
When he was dancing for you yesterday, that was just for you.
And with that...
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Three Dad Bods with Brent, Carl, and Sean. We got a special old neighborhood guest to add to the fourth Dad Bod on here. We got Glynn Ralph with us. How you doing, man?
Doing good.
Good, man. So, guys, good week, poor week, blah, blah week. I feel like every time we get back together on a podcast, I get more and more upset on the way things are going in the media. So I've decided just to turn everything off on the media and focus on just life itself. Because I just keep getting so upset with everything that's going on these days,
Well, aren't all men going to be women soon, and all women are going to be men? So it just doesn't matter, does it?
Do you want to know my opinion on
Maybe.
this? This is just the life according to Brent here. I think that there is a giant push to stop growth in population. And the way to do that is, number one, push abortions. Number two, what is a woman? We take them completely out of existence and we shame you for thinking that there's anything worthwhile in being a woman. And then encouraging kids to do these god-awful surgeries and everything like that. But sorry, I didn't mean to jump into a tangent on something like that. It's just something that popped in my head there. And it's just been, doesn't it tick you guys off? Like, maybe we sound like our dads or something, but it's just like, what the hell is going on here,
You don't want to hear what my dad says.
It's definitely not something that I had ever imagined growing up. Sounding like our dads, I gotta tell you, Glynn looks like his dad. I thought we had Dean on here for a minute.
Well,
yeah,
Dale.
Yeah.
Sean.
I was going to say, you have your mom's frizzy hairdo, so careful there.
I don't look like my dad. Jeez.
Brent always goes to that, Dale.
I know. That's because he loves my dad.
Your dad's awesome, man. Your dad is awesome.
Actually, Glenn's father just passed away, and I went to the funeral, and that was a really good funeral. Glynn, your dad was a great guy. So,
you know what?
If the older I get, the more I look like him. If I could just continue to be like him, I think I'll be all right.
I do too.
Yeah.
I will tell you,
We all
Glenn,
agree.
the one thing I remember about your dad was one of the most helpful people I have ever known in my life. If anybody if my parents needed anything, your dad was always the first one to volunteer, always the first one there. I've heard several stories where he would randomly just mow people's lawns all the time. He would shovel snow, and he really was a good man, a good person. And your mom is a wonderful person too, salt of the earth.
She makes me good bread. She always made me bread when I came over. She was awesome.
She always yelled at
That
me.
is kind of crazy, though. A little story about him is he was pushing 88, and he was still mowing the neighbor's yard just directly to the west of him. And was like, Dad, you can't be mowing their lawn anymore. Oh, well, why not? Well, the doctor said you can't even mow your lawn. Well, somebody's got to mow the lawn.
It's so
89, he was still out
man.
there edging people's lawns and mowing them. It truly was. The mantra of the Ralph household is if your last name is Ralph, you serve. That's what you do. And
Right.
until your last name isn't Ralph, you're going to get out there and do some work, and for other people. And it's not a bad way to live life.
Hey guys,
You know-
I can tell you, I just want to throw in there that since I live down here in Arizona and just a few miles away from Glynn, I can tell you, he's always under somebody's car fixing it. So Glynn, you picked that up from your dad. You're a good man. You've helped countless number of people with your talent. So you're a good dude.
Let's tell the audience that doesn't know us as well, our neighborhood, a little more about Glynn and how he fits into our friendship, the three of us, and tell a little bit of his, just kind of get a little of his background in. He also knew Mark Atkinson. We just had a episode about Mark, and so I'd like to, Glynn, are you okay with that? We'll just talk a little bit about how you connected to us, and then
The enforcer.
moved to Arizona, and then a little bit about your family, and then we'll go into your story a little more. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay.
So basically, I've been around since day one. Carl and Brent are younger than I am, so
Barely.
I can't say I've known them my entire lives. Not Carl, Sean. Sean and Brent are a little bit younger than I am, but I'm pretty sure we're
You're like
running around
3 days older than
diapers
Carl.
together in the 111th Ward. But you guys covered in the past, Carl moved in about the 4th grade, and for some reason we liked him and kept him around.
It went downhill from there.
Yeah, the neighborhood really, that was the peak, and it just started going down after that.
It was like 4th grade, 3rd grade, 2nd grade was awesome, and then God, this fool come in.
Okay. Easy.
Fortunately for me, or unfortunately for me, I've known all y'all for most of my life.
Yep.
I have, because I've kept a lot of them awards and stuff that we had gotten through sports and
Oh, I still
everything
have
like
every
that.
one of them.
Oh yeah, and isn't that great though? Do you guys remember?
Glynn was the
winning.
Glenn was Kurt Rambis of the 11th Ward basketball team. He was the enforcer.
But
you got 5 pounds, you got to use them.
But we would win, and you get like a ball, but then like that next Sunday in church, and Paul Bigler going up to the pulpit, and calling us all up there and handing us that paper and the picture that to us was like there were no participation trophies. You were either a champion or you were a chumpion, and I remember hanging those on my wall. I had a whole wall solid of just awards that we won.
Why would you do that, dude? I can't stand the look of you anyway, and having you up on my wall, that would have been, oh man.
Yeah, but I love the look of me, and that's why I had it up there.
Anyway, that's right.
Well, when you've always been good looking, Carl, it's kind of hard to be humble.
It's true.
So.
It is tough for Brent. Good call, Glenn. Anyway, we all kind of grew up in that ward. You're right. I remember countless days hanging out with Glenn in his backyard, trying to pretend we could dunk the basketball, and then watching stupid movies downstairs, and my love of Top Gun.
The Atari.
Yeah, I mean, there were some fun experiences that we all had. Then we all grew up, and Glenn decided, it ticked me off at the time, to he got married first of all, a little earlier than the rest of us, but got started a little sooner. But then he decided to move to Arizona, and I think Mark was Mark down there already, Glenn?
Yep,
okay,
sure was.
Tell us what happened. How did Mark help you out? Because I remember you're talking about that in the beginning.
Well, the reason I'm in Arizona is because I needed medical insurance.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to cover a little bit of that today. but I was getting close to being diagnosed with a liver problem, and I needed medical insurance. So I went to my boss at the dealership, and they didn't. It was a small dealership. They didn't offer it, and I says, "Well, I need a raise. I need to pay for it. We can't do that." And I'm like, "All right." So I looked around. I enjoyed working on the Isuzu brand, and so I was looking around. I was like, "Well, maybe my ego is too inflated. Maybe I don't think I'm worth what I'm worth." But I came down here and applied for a couple of jobs down here in Phoenix, and both of them really wanted me for complete benefit package and a $5 an hour raise. And I'm like,
Wow.
so I went back up to Intermountain. I told them, I said, "Hey, I got this deal on the table," and they says, "We can't do anything about it." And I'm like, "Well, I'll let you know when my house is built." So the very next weekend, I came back down again, drove down again, and purchased a house. And here I am in Arizona.
How long have you been down there?
I moved in '97.
Oh, wow.
So you've had all your family were born there except for Amanda, right? Your oldest?
None of them were born here.
Oh, really? Okay. Oh.
My youngest girl, she was like a year and a half.
Oh. See where I'm at. I'm sorry, man. Totally out of it. Okay. So yeah, you had a pretty big family when you first moved down there then. Kind of a big...
Yeah, we had 4 kids.
Kind of scary, or were you nervous?
Well, Brent's done that. Carl's done it. You move to a city where you know nobody. You know, it's like, but...
Good and bad.
But, you know, unlike Brent, I mean, yeah, if you're still in the church, it only takes a week before you know everybody. And you have that support system behind you. To where if you needed to call somebody, you got the phone number right there. So it was a little scary at first, but it was more difficult taking my mom's only grandparent or grandchildren away from her at the time. That did not go well. Wrath of the Marine. But
We've all felt the wrath.
It has been a huge blessing for us to be in Arizona. I'll tell you that.
That's good, man. That's really good.
So when you were working for a Chevrolet dealership at that point, right?
Isuzu.
In Salt Lake.
Well, no, when you were in Phoenix. This is after you moved there.
It's a Chevy and a Isuzu dealership.
Okay,
yeah.
So they provided you the health insurance that you needed, and you continued along living life. And then tell us a little bit about the health problems that began to develop, and
right.
Go into that in a little more detail.
Let me tell you a story, guys. Let me take this for a little while. I'll fill in my life to last a little bit, and I'll catch you up a little bit here. So I had donated blood, and that donation of blood came back and said, your liver enzymes are bad. You got hepatitis. I'm like, what?
Wow.
So I got to in the process of getting that diagnosed. And before they threw the diagnosis out there, it was the time in the era, if you remember this, pre-existing conditions. Your insurance didn't have to cover you all your pre-existings. They could everything else, but the pre-existing, they didn't have to cover it. And so they says, we don't really want to diagnose you all the way until you have insurance. And that's what led me down to Arizona. Once I got down here, I got diagnosed with what's called a primary sclerosing cholangitis. It's an autoimmune problem that's attacking the liver.
So
I've known about this disease since I was 27, 28.
Uh-huh.
And it's very slow, very, very, in my case, it's a very slow deterioration of the liver. And it's attacking it. And some people end up getting just primary sclerosing cholangitis. From here on out, I'm going to call it PSC. Okay, so some people can go a very long time, like I have with PSC. Some people, I don't know if you guys remember Tawane Cole.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Alicia Gardner's husband. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, he ended up dying about 8 years ago of primary sclerosing cholangitis. So, he's a young guy, and it was kind of a reality check to me. It was like, wow, this is real. There's a Chicago Bulls linebacker. I think it's Walter Payton. Is that who it is?
Chicago Bears.
With
Yep.
primary sclerosis.
Running back?
Mm-hmm.
What's that?
Yeah.
Chicago Bears.
He's
Walter
running back.
Payton. Yep.
Chicago Bears.
Greatest of all time. One of the GOATs.
So, it's uncommon, but unfortunately it's there. And what you do is it attacks the liver so bad that you need a liver transplant, and they put you on the list, and you get your liver transplant, and then you're good for another. They say the average time from diagnosis to transplant is 14 years.
Wow.
You think about that. You think about how slow I am. I still have my original liver in me, and I'm running at 28 years, 25 years since I've been down here. So I've been kind of incredibly blessed.
Half your life.
Yeah, I've been incredibly blessed down here of having a slow reaction to the PSC. Now, there is a small chance to get cancer of the liver. It's a cancer that is unbeatable. It was when I was diagnosed with this PSC years ago. They said, "Yeah, you get cancer, you're done." Okay, it's don't get cancer. You'll be all right. But 8 years ago, I was just getting done serving as bishop. So prior to all this, I'm with the gastroenterologist GI doctor. He keeps track of me. He's the one that watches me, and every couple of years we do an MRI just to see where we are with the liver and whatnot. And right before I got released as bishop, I had gotten an MRI, and it was clean, no problem at all. 5 months later, I started feeling bad. I was really dragging. I was at night. I was running fevers, and I was like, "Man, something's not right." And he's like, "Well, let's go get that MRI done." I said, "All right, let's get another MRI." And within 5 months of that last MRI, I was released as bishop, and I now have cancer within 5 months, and it's inoperable. The liver has a portal vein. It has a vein that goes right up the middle of it. My tumor is right on top of that vein, and so they, in surgery wise, like they take half your liver off, and it'll literally regenerate. But because of the disease that I got going on and the place of the tumor, by the time they got done hacking away at it, I would have no liver left and I'd be dead. So surgery's out of the equation. Surgery was out of the equation, which was huge. And so this is 2015, guys. And
wow.
So years ago, when I was first diagnosed with this PSC, I was mad. I was mad at the world, and I was mad at God. I was mad at everybody. I was mad at the bum on the street corner that had a healthy liver, even though he's shooting himself up or drinking every night. I pity little things like that, to just see people just going out partying hard every weekend and they don't have liver problems. Yet the Mormon guy who's never drank a day in his life is over here with a liver problem. Isn't that
crazy?
I considered that awfully unfair. Mm-hmm. And I was mad.
I could totally relate. I completely understand that.
And so he's like, "All right, God, I can't sit here and be mad all the time. This isn't how I want to live my life." So I bargained with God. I had a heart-to-heart with God. And I'm going to tell you guys, I'm a strong believer in my faith. I'm still strong in the church. But what I have here to say today is does not matter what faith you are. You do know that as long as there's a God out there and you believe in a God, then we can communicate. But I had a communication with God. I had a heart-to-heart with him. I said, God, I got 4 young kids, 4 kids, and I'm just a young dude. prolong me long enough to where I can raise my kids so they can see what kind of a goofball I am, see what I'm about, and so I can enjoy them and they can enjoy me and they can have stories for their kids. And that was a good come to God moment, and it was heartwarming to feel the peace of mind that it came once I finally gave up that anger. Finding the peace that it comes to understanding that, yeah, I've got a long road ahead of me, but there's hope. And so years go by. My kids are now getting old. They're all going on missions, and I get cancer. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, the crap, this is the unbeatable cancer. And at first, when you ever get that diagnosis of cancer, the pity train, I call them pity trains. You get that pity train. And so I jumped right back on that pity party. And anger and all those emotions are healthy. You need to have those emotions. God gave us anger so we can understand joy. And so in that process of going through this, of getting diagnosis, finding a treatment, finding a place to give you treatment, I came across this oncologist. Man, this guy has the faith in the world, man. He's a little Indian dude. And he was something else, man. He could sell me sand in the Sahara Desert if I would buy anything from him. But he had such a positivity about him that I couldn't help but to say, okay, well, I'm going to get better. I'm going to fight this thing. Mm-hmm. And so I started doing the chemo, and after the chemo, I did 6 weeks of everyday radiation.
Oof.
Yeah, it was a bit rough.
Yeah.
I'm still working. I going through all this. I still worked a full-time job, guys.
Wow. Yeah, you hadn't retired yet, right? Yeah, I was not going to let my body win, and in that process, by this time, I've picked up a hobby of riding bikes. Mm-hmm. Riding bikes is an interesting thing because you can always tell yourself you're not going to lose, you're going to win, and that hill that's coming up against you. You say to yourself in your mind is, okay, I'm gonna race against my best time, and I'm gonna beat my best time up that hill. And halfway through that hill, you're thinking to yourself, oh crap, what did I sign myself up to? This hill's long, it's steep, and I'm running out of juice. But you get that fortitude, and you say, oh God, I'm not going to stop. I'm going to keep on pedaling, and eventually at the top, you're over the hill. And you get the joys of going back down that hill at ridiculous speeds on a stupid bike. So this might be a dumb question, but why biking versus running? I mean, just curiously.
Well, I kind of look like this. Have you ever seen a runner with a happy face?
No. Except my son.
It's always pain to them. It's like, I don't see that you're having a good time.
That's a good point.
Wait a minute. Carl, you're a swimmer,
as a mechanic, my knees are shot, and I can't handle the pounding.
Sean, I can't stand running either. I don't know where he got it from, but it wasn't me.
Do you want to know the crazy thing? I couldn't stand running at all either. I really 90 feet was my limit. The length of a basketball court. That's all I'm going to run. And if I'm running past that, you should probably start running too.
That's still your limit.
Dude, I'm doing 3 miles a day now, and it's like, and like Glenn's talking about, you see something and you challenge yourself. You're like, I'm going to hit it. I'm going to hit this hill. I'm going to get to the top. And midway up, you're going, what did I get into? What am I doing here? But when you hit that top, like you said, it's like you won a thing and Paul Bigler's giving us an award in church again,
Well, Glenn, tell us too, you got involved, and I think you have quite a good support group down there, but tell us about your cycling friends how did you... how do you get involved with the community of cyclers if you're wanting to get into cycling? I'm kind of curious how you got in. You're really invested in that sport now, from what it sounds like.
Yeah, got a ridiculously expensive bike out there. Tell you what, if you're as cheap as I am and you buy an expensive bike, you go out and ride the bike just because it's sitting there. Because you're like, if I bought that stupid expensive bike, I'm going to ride the darn thing. I'm telling you that right here and now. So, funny thing is, that really expensive bike has not made me a lick faster. I don't know how that happens.
Isn't that how it always goes?
I'm still old.
Do you race? Like, do you enter races also? Do you enter competitively races?
I do races, but they're
That's
more
awesome.
just geared towards me, my personal best. Strava is an app that I use to gauge where I'm at as far as my goals and those around me. But cycling is really easy to get to. Most cycling shops have groups you can go join with them, and they have different levels of beginners, intermediates, and the experts, and you can pick and choose where you go with those guys. It's really easy. I didn't do that route because I live in a fairly well-to-do area, and there's a lot of middle-aged men that like to wear Lycra and pedal their bikes insanely hours. So I just joined in with them.
Do you wear Lycra? Do you wear Lycra now? Because I remember.
Oh, dude, I am so sexy when it comes to this stuff. And
That's awesome.
I don't know how my wife keeps her hands off me. I really don't.
I don't know how she does either. I mean, that's amazing, man. I can't.
I'm thinking about you right now,
pedal
Glenn.
fast enough to where nobody can see me wearing.
All right, I got one funny story. Glenn and I, we took a ballet class together for 2 weeks. Yeah. Well, we thought we were going to become better balanced in terms of basketball skills, right? Remember that, Glenn?
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah. And there was this one guy. He was an older dude, and he was wearing some really interesting clothing. So I can just imagine Glenn right now in his biking suit. So I'm glad you are scaring young men everywhere, Glenn. I appreciate that. So
just close your eyes.
Yeah, cycling is really easy. To move on.
Well, I had to tell that story. It just came popping into my brain.
Oh my goodness, that's so funny.
So yeah, cycling is easy and it's a fun sport. Like I'll go out and do about 100 miles a week.
Oh,
wow, that is crazy. In the Arizona heat too.
Well, yeah,
man,
you get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and start riding a bike at 4 in the morning. It's not so bad.
Wow.
It's the sun. The heat isn't as bad when the sun is down.
Yeah, as long as the sun's not glaring on you, you're okay.
So what's
look? I remember being there.
Getting up that early in the morning, you do get to see amazing sunrises.
Yeah,
just beautiful up. Stuff coming up over the desert, just coming over the mountain range. The superstition there.
Now have you've done some bike rallies then, or what are the events called in your sport?
They're usually called a tour or something or another.
Okay.
Tour Tucson, the Fall Classic. I've done St. George. I did 100-mile in St. George, 100-mile Tucson, 100-mile.
Ride 100. How long does it take to go to ride 100 miles?
A little over 6 hours.
Yeah.
You can average about 19, 18 miles per hour on those bikes.
Now, do you have like
a awesome,
a little over 6 hours?
Now, do you have to
I did it once and it took me 2 days.
2 days for 100 miles on a bike?
I'm kidding.
Oh.
I'm joking.
Okay.
Come on, Carl.
Well, no, Glenn, when you're doing one of these races, do you have a support person that follows you around, or do you just have to kind of work it out and figure it out over the 100 miles?
No, there's aid stations.
Okay.
They put the aid stations about every 30 miles.
Just like running then.
You pull into there and
30 miles though, man.
Yeah. Well, it's 40 miles between this and the next aid station. You better not have a flat tire.
That's about 29
mile 32. I'm dead.
Yeah. So at the aid station, you'll have your water and your pickle juice and some snacks to refuel on if you want to stop.
Does that pickle juice really work?
It does.
Yeah.
Ugh.
It does.
It does. It stops cramps. It tastes terrible.
Oh,
horrible.
It's terrible. But at the time, I'm telling you, some of the best pickle juice I've ever had is on a bike ride when I was cramping really bad. I mean, I could have drank a gallon of that stuff. And, that's your body reacts to what it needs.
Can you mix it with something to make it taste better?
It needed that salt and needed that stuff, and it tasted great.
Oh.
Carl's asking if you can make a margarita with
Yeah. That's right, Sean.
Well, you're drinking it for the benefits is what you're drinking it for. Because, like you said, this stuff, it's amazing what it does.
It's a business idea for, all those aid stations, all those marathons. Hey, get your margarita pickle margarita juice, right? A little ice.
So moving on with the story, Carl. You go to the biking.
Yeah, let's go. Let's continue the story. I'm sorry, squirrel.
You guys are so all over the world. It's just something else. It's like, wow.
Love us.
That's called podcast. You can do whatever you want on them. Anyway, go ahead, Glenn. Sorry about that.
So I get down to this chemo and this radiation, and it comes out that I beat cancer. I beat this unbeatable cancer. And you sit there and you think to yourself, how does that happen? And when you're just done of being bishop, everybody knows you in the ward. And I had primary children and adults and whatnot praying for me. And the support and the gratitude when it comes to that is what really pushed me forward. But the long gist of it is I never allowed myself to have huge mental breakdowns, huge pity parties. I understand. When you have this problem, you realize that every day is a gift. Every day. You wake up and you're breathing and you're sucking air no matter what happens during that day. Life is better than the alternative. And so when you get that attitude, you can do amazing things. You can see things that are much more important to you, and you can see things that are not important to you, and you have no desire to waste any energy towards that at all. And it kind of pinpoints you to understand that I'm given this gift, and I need to accept it and magnify it. And so I make it a point. I talked about my kids is I can tell my kids. Let me back up. I don't know if I could ever tell you one time my dad ever told me he loved me, but I knew that he did. But my kids know that I love them because I constantly am telling them. I'm around them. I hug them. I let them know I appreciate them, and I appreciate the adults that they've turned out to be. And but I got this cancer, and I had another come to God moment. I was mad again, and I was like, all right, God, I went to him the first time. I said, let me raise my kids and let me see them. Let me see them graduate. But the second time it came around, and I was like, okay, God, I'm gonna ask for it again, dude. I want to be able to see my kids married. I want to be able to be there at their weddings. And you start looking at these big ticket items, Christmases and Mother's Days and Thanksgivings, and you just want to be around. So God came through for me again. He allowed me to beat an unbeatable cancer. And I went 4 years with that. And I'd go get scans. It came back clean. And the whole 9 yards, it was amazing. But then in 2000 and what year was that, Kenlin? 21.
2020, wasn't it?
I ended up getting a belly pain and stomach pain in my stomach again, and I sat there on the couch for a day, and the next day, Kenlin, my wife, she comes in and she says, "Look, you can either go to the hospital or you just need to leave because I'm not going to watch you sit there and be in this much pain anymore." And I was like, "Yes, ma'am." So I finally, unmanned up. I was manning up through the pain. It's time to accept the challenge of your wife. And I went to the emergency room, and they did a bunch of tests, and I think I was passing a gallstone. But in the process of that, they caught the cancer growing again. And boy, that one rocked my world. By that time, my kids had been grown, and they all have been married, and they've been through the temple. And I was I was out of bargaining chips with God, and I sat there and I just like, all right, if this is it, this is it, and I'm okay with that. But I got that amazing oncologist. He's like, oh yeah, we'll start chemo, and so we started chemo, and I did chemo for 6 months, and it wasn't doing anything. It stopped the growth, but the size was still there of the tumor. And at that time, they didn't think I could do radiation again. I'd received so much radiation prior to that they're afraid that more radiation would just shut the liver down. But I got a hold of a radiologist. He got a hold of his people in actually Houston, and they talked back and forth, and they came up with the realization that I could have radiation. That was a huge blessing, because at that point I was completely without options. The ward held a fast for me, and fasting and prayer. Again, great ward members, great friends, great people around me, praying for my health, and that's a lot of. I mean, if I have to say anything, that's what's kept me around is the faith of other people praying and making me want to be better. But I got onto radiation, and the radiologist, he's an LDS dude, and I was talking with him about it, and I says, yeah, I'm hoping for a miracle here on this radiation. And he says, Glenn, you've already seen a miracle. I've never talked to anybody who's had this cancer alive 4 years later. And I'm like, okay, that's a little humbling, It's like, okay. So I go through this radiation again, and sure enough, guys, I beat it again. I'm in remission again, and I come up. It's been about a year since my last treatment, but it's just truly amazing that the will to survive and my faith in God has allowed me to be here today. Because it's like I said, Tawani is not here anymore. He was a great man, and he had a great family behind him, and he didn't get these blessings that I got. People going down the freeway who die on the freeway or some mishap and they're gone within a day. They don't get the opportunity that I have had to raise my kids, to make sure my wife is taken care of, to enjoy just the knowledge that my kids know them. And now that I have 9 grandchildren, Carl mentioned I started out early in life. I can't believe how amazing that was, because I did start out. I was a 19-year-old dad, and by the time I was 27, I had 4 kids, and it has been a blessing, because now I get the fruits of my oldest granddaughter is 9 now. So it's amazing to me that now they know that their grandpa, their Bubba, is.
I'm jealous. I'm still waiting for my first
party. He'll take them out water skiing and wakeboarding and do all the fun stuff with them, and they can understand their personality. All that derives of my knowing my leaving an impact in life with these kids, all stems from the Hammonds. The Hammonds' mom passed away before any of those, Diane or Paul, knew their mom very well, and they were raised by their dad.
I don't even remember her. Mm-mm. Yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember her, but my mom does, and she said she was a really neat lady. But the kids didn't know her, and I didn't want that in my life. So, anyways, I beat cancer again. I'm doing well. I've got a lot of issues. This last round of chemo and radiation really has beat me up pretty bad. And I've got a whole slew of complications afterwards. And so every day is a bit of a battle, but we did something smart, and we got my wife into school. We put Kenlyn into school. She's got her master's degree. She's an occupational therapist. And right now I have a sugar mama.
Hey,
plain and simple.
I love
it. I don't have to fix cars anymore. I do what I want to do, and we rely on her income. But we were smart. We didn't overinvest, Everything is paid off. We are completely debt free, and she's going to be in a good situation for when I am not around. I was talking with Laura Woodford, the other day. She happened to text me right when I just got done being in the hospital again. And she's like, why do you keep on doing all this? What is your motivation? And the reality is I want to be around for the big events still. I still want to be able to. My second granddaughter got baptized the other day, and I was there for that, and I want to be around for the Christmases. I want to be around for Sunday night dinners at my table and playing games, and I'm not afraid of death. If I die tomorrow, there's nothing wrong with me. I've done everything I wanted to do in life. I've jumped out of airplanes. I scuba dive. I ride bikes all the time. I've done a lot of my bucket list. They're done. But the reality is I don't know how much time I have left. And if it's a couple of years, it's a couple of years. But my wife was the most important thing to me, and keeping her and making sure she's set up to be able to take care of herself. Done. And so. Again, I
not a lot
know
of people
where
get to do that.
I just don't want to leave the other people behind. That's where I want to be. Yeah, that's the hardest part, is leaving people behind.
Yeah.
Well, you're a very, very loved person, Glynn. People in Arizona, your neighbors, I can attest that Glynn's neighbors love him, and Glynn, we love you.
Yeah, we do, Glynn. You know that. You've been a...
So we should... I think that's been a lot of heavy stuff. I think we ought to share some stories about Glynn that'll make people laugh.
I tried to. I got shut down.
This is not abuse Glynn as the guest.
Well, before we do that, Sean, I just wanted to ask.
Want more guests to come onto this show, which you desperately need. You can't be bad. You can't be bringing them out their skeletons out of the closet.
Hey, Sean, before we go to that, which I agree with you, we should talk to a little bit about some fun stories from the past. But Glynn, one thing I've read a few, and maybe I'm kind of weird, but I've read a few NDEs, near-death experience stories. And one thing that I, just listening to you for the last half hour, do you feel that your perspectives changed dramatically from the time that you ended being a bishop and all the way to today? During that period of time, has your view of life or why we're here changed in a fundamental way? And it sounds like that's kind of the way you live your life, though, as far as every day is a blessing. But is there any more to that you can expand on that I didn't?
Not necessarily. I think I pretty much covered that.
Okay.
That I don't live my life any different than I did 20 years ago.
Okay.
I understood then that every day is a gift and that we need to treat it as that. And that doesn't mean you can't have bad days. Mm-hmm. Not everybody's going to have have a great day. People, whether you're struggling with relationship issues or you're struggling with health issues, you're struggling financially, those are hard struggles. Mm-hmm. And those are hard trials in your life. And not every bargaining chip that I did is going to be answered. And so I think if you just leave yourself open to accept God's will, per se, and just appreciate what He's given you so much, because it is so easy to treat life like this sucks. Why me? What is going on? Why do I have to go through this again? It's hard to live life like that in the negativity. I refuse to do that because it takes energy that I don't want to give it. So I look at the positive and I said, what can I do today? One of my biggest fears is just existing. I don't want to exist. I want to be an impact on somebody or my wife, my family's life, or or somebody's life around me every day. I want to be that positive person.
Well, you certainly left a mark for me in terms of an example, and I appreciate it, Glynn. You're, I don't know. I don't think I could have done as well as you going through what you've done in the last few years.
Don't say that. You don't know that.
I don't know that, but it's just your story's remarkable, and I do respect and appreciate what you've gone through, and it's a great example to the rest of us, because we're all going to have these obstacles coming up in our lives eventually.
Yeah,
what I find incredible is, we read a book or we see, like a Hallmark movie, with people that have similar stories that you've had, and like to know somebody like yourself that has gone through this, that, you and I haven't talked for years and stuff, but I still feel a personal touch with you. You're still a close friend to me, but the thing that I hear over and over in you talking is, you found purpose. You found new purpose. Where very easily, as you mentioned, you were upset, wondering why. You could have easily given up, which I think a lot of people do. A lot of people say, you know what, that's it, I'm done. Throw in the towel and make your way out. But you shifted your thoughts and found a purpose and said, no, I'm not ready to go yet. I need to have this. I need to make sure this is taken care of. And you set a purpose. It's interesting because I don't think people realize how much control we really have in ourselves. You can wake up in the morning and you can say, oh God, it's Monday again. You know what? And you know what? Your whole Monday is just crap. Or you can wake up in the morning and say, God, it's Monday. What a great night's sleep I had. And it changes your whole perspective. It changes the whole way you view everything. And that's what you did. You could have said, I hate this. I'm done. This is it. Everybody hates me. The world is over. Blah. But you're like,
people are trying to tell me how I'm supposed to think.
Yeah, and that's what's so incredible. Like, I don't know, and I can't put myself in your shoes. I can in a way where I think you're very competitive. You have to be competitive after everything you've done, because you look at everything now as a progress and a challenge. But I think after hearing that I had this same cancer again for the second time, I would have been like, you know what, I've beaten this before. Yeah. I've defied odds before. I'm not going to allow people to tell me this is unbeatable, because you have proven not once, but twice.
Or is it 3 times? I am kind of confused. Twice, okay.
Twice.
Yep.
Well, let's not make it a third time.
Just amazing, bud. I mean, just an amazing story. I love you, Glynn. I really do, man. It's just absolutely
great story. Well, Sean, you have stories I can tell. They're bursting out of you. Tell us a story about Glynn that Brett and I might not have heard down up here while you've been down in Arizona with him.
Golly, I got to say, one of the great blessings in my life has been being here around Glynn. I've had a lot of opportunity to have lunch with him. We've gone boating together. Glenn's just a great friend, and anybody who knows Glynn, knows that he's a great friend. He's wonderful. So now we're both, well, we're not both busy, but I'm wicked busy with work, and I have a hard time getting time to do a lot of stuff. But Glynn still makes time for me, and he comes and we have a Philly cheesesteak every once in a while together at a place not far from where I work. And
yeah, we got the place down here in Phoenix. They know how to make a Philly cheesesteak. I'm telling you.
I need to come back down again soon.
As good as anything I've ever had in Philadelphia. So
really, as good as Philly?
As good as anything I ever had in Philly. Yep.
What's the name of the place?
Forefathers.
Forefathers, yeah.
Oh, next time I'm down there, I'm coming. We're all going. Brent, you need to come to. We all 4 of us need to go golfing down in Phoenix.
We gotta come on down, man. Last time I was in Phoenix was for the 20th anniversary of Mark's death. That was the last time I was down there, and Sean and I went out, but I kind of just spent a lot of time over there at the cemetery. But I would love to hook up with everybody down there. Come down, spend a weekend down there, and I'm down for some Philly cheesesteaks anytime.
Yeah.
I have to let Carl be the true determining factor if that's good or not, because I think he spent the most time in
Yeah, it's been a while.
So a funny thing about Glynn is when we were kids, and this may have been before you came to the neighborhood, Carl, but
back in the good days.
We so Glynn and I don't remember if we had class together or what, but we would be out in recess together all the time. And for whatever reason, Glynn thought it was fun to just not really go play, like most kids want to go swing on the swings or whatever. Glynn just wanted to go run like a gazelle or something. And he would grab me and he'd say, "Okay, let's go run, Sean." And I could never keep up with his long legs. And so Glynn he'd say, "Okay, I'll hold your hand and my speed will go into your body." So we would go running around the playground holding hands.
I'm holding his hand. Sean's like flailing in the wind. We're glad.
Think of
This is going to be the preview video, Sean. I hope you realize this.
Yeah, I know.
Sean and Glynn just prancing around.
This was before it was socially acceptable.
It's all about
two boys.
It's all about the draft. You got to catch the draft just right, and so you use 30% less energy by drafting than by yourself. So.
I think that's just a biking thing. I don't think that was real. I don't think that happened when we were running.
It doesn't go with holding hands, Glynn.
Maybe it's good I missed that.
I
probably would have moved back to the old neighborhood after that.
Oh my gosh!
Hey, do you guys remember this? And I don't know if I can show this on the camera or not. It's not going to show. But you remember being in primary class, and I swear it was probably Larry Gunn that started this, because he was always trouble, not us kids.
Oh, Larry, troublemaker.
We kind of all of us. Come on.
We kind of whispered to each other, and we were saying, like, we're going to count to 3 in our heads, and we have one leg folded over our right leg, and we're going to count to 3, and then we're all going to shift and change legs, and just constantly count 1 to 3, and switch our legs back 1, 2, 3. We were like in complete synchronicity, all of us in the class, folding our legs back and forth.
Hey, Rudy.
And we ended up seeing the bishop after that, but
Speaking of teachers, who was the one that lived by Sean? She had red hair, and we used to
Richards.
We terrorized the the poor
Richards.
lady. Oh my goodness, we were a terrible group.
No, are you talking about the old lady at the Dobermans?
Is that it? Her name was Richards.
No, Faye.
Or was it Richards?
I don't know.
Faye Good.
Faye.
What was her name?
They lived across the street from me.
Oh,
yeah.
Goodman.
Wow, we
got called in the bishop's office that one too. We tried to run her out of the classroom.
We were little hellions.
We got in a lot of trouble.
Hey, there's not many times my mom whooped my ass, but we made her cry, and my mom whooped my ass.
Yeah.
So
how could you make her cry?
So Glenn, do you remember when my dad bought the boxing gloves? And you whacked Eddie Branham so hard
out of each other in your front yard.
Yeah, you whacked it that same night, the night that he brought him out. You and Eddie were sparring. Old Eddie Branham. I don't know if anybody remembers him. And all of a sudden, Glenn, just wham! Right into the nuts. I mean, just hard. And Eddie goes down. And Eddie's a pretty tough guy, right? He's into the martial arts crap. Thinks he's like whatever that dude's name is, the martial arts guy. Yeah, Bruce Lee. Dude, I don't think he moved for about 5 minutes. I was just like, "Are you okay, Eddie? Eddie?
Do you know who he reminds me of? Do you know who Eddie Brennan reminded me of? Do you remember the Bad News Bears?
Oh,
And the kid
Long
with the
hair.
long hair. That's who he reminded me
Yeah.
of.
Yeah, Eddie was a character. I'll say that.
Apparently, Eddie has twin girls. So, well,
Oh, good.
Wow.
He died several years ago, but
Yeah,
yeah,
Did he really?
yeah,
yeah.
Wow.
yeah. His
I know he ended up in prison for a while or jail or something, didn't he?
yeah, but
He found a rough stretch, but he has two girls, twins. So I didn't wreck his world completely with that punch.
yeah, you didn't. We were worried.
I got the wingspan of a monkey, guys. It's not my fault.
You do,
I
man.
went for an uppercut, and it was just right there.
I wasn't wanting any of Glenn after that. I wanted to fight Eddie, but not Glenn. I was like,
120 pounds of redheaded fury coming your way.
I think didn't you try to wrestle me right after my mission? And I was just like, holy cow, this guy's like a big piece of molten wire. Yeah, skinny,
Yeah.
but just Glenn's a tough dude. You wrestled for how many years for Cypress High School? Was it like all three?
Well, I lost a lot of matches in Cypress High School. Yes. Wrestling wasn't my thing.
Unless it was whooping on Carl.
You wrestled.
Parents are too poor to put me in football, so
Well, that makes sense now why you wanted to whoop my butt all the time, so it make you feel good about yourself. Okay, I got it.
That's funny.
yeah.
Glenn, do you remember?
Probably want to whoop your butt because you made him go to a ballerina class.
Oh, that was a good
Darn
story.
tootin'.
That's a great story. Anyway,
Great story. Hey, Glenn, do you remember? Do you remember the time that you and I were riding around? This is actually, now that I'm thinking about it, this is a little bit like running around holding your hand. But we were riding your motorcycle. You had a
What an impression I
motorcycle.
made on this poor kid.
yeah,
You had a
I'm
motorcycle.
starting to worry about Sean.
Yeah.
We have a transition
Stars for
coming.
life.
I just did what Glenn told me.
Anyway,
we were riding around on this motorcycle, and I'm on the back of the motorcycle. You're on the front. You're driving,
Yeah.
and we
Yeah.
come up towards your house, and your mom comes out like a pit bull, starts getting a little bit upset with us and yelling at us for getting ourselves killed.
Yeah.
Doreen was
It was one of those
She has every
moments.
right.
Doreen was
if you
a
think
nice
about
lady.
it, two idiots on a motorcycle riding around Salt Lake City together
No
with no
helmet.
insurance.
Yeah, no helmet on either of us.
Yeah.
Your mom was scary but loving.
I always liked Doreen. She was always nice to me.
I
Sean,
love Doreen.
you're just a reprobate. That's why she worried about you. She's like the grandma on Friday Night Lights. She didn't like you. You were the
You know what? I would go over to her house and she would feed me peanut butter sandwiches. So she liked me.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
this has been awesome, guys. It's been nice to get back together again. Truly inspiring story, Glenn. I know we appreciate you coming on and helping us out today. So,
If you like any of our friends here, or I don't know, what do you have? 3 people that listen to this podcast now?
3.
There's four. There's four.
4.5.
Yeah, four with you now. Yeah, you
Okay.
made 4.
Yeah. Maybe you'll listen to this episode. I hope, Glenn. We're watching.
All 4 of you, if you have any questions at all, I'd be glad to chat with you, whether text or phone call, whatever. I've got a lot more stuff I could throw into that story, but it's only an hour long, so I admitted a lot of stuff, but nonetheless, it's all good. It's like I said, as long as you can remember that life is good and that every day is a gift from God, then you're doing all right.
Do you mind if I use that for the title of our episode? Every day is a gift from God. I like that.
I'm telling you, man, you need to hit the motivational speaker.
Yeah, dude, you should.
It's like I'm telling you, like
Where I went to high
Listen
school
to
at,
these things.
I'm not the most elegant person in the
even
world.
better, man.
You did a great job.
Even
You
better,
did a great
though,
job
man.
today.
I mean, I'm telling you, like, if more people could hear your story, it would make this world a better place. It really would.
You should
It just,
Sorry.
yeah, in a world filled with so much jealousy and tearing people down and division and kind of what I was talking about this when we began the podcast, dude, I feel 100% better listening to you than how I was feeling at the beginning of this podcast, because you bring so much positivity, and really I think you bring hope in a world that feels like there's no hope inside of it whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
You show that, there is hope. You control that hope. You have to go get that hope and live with it and accept it.
Yep.
And it's just incredible. I would pay to hear you talk on stage. I honestly would.
I would too. No, Glenn, don't short yourself.
Well, at least
That was
there's
a
one
great story.
person in the world I can take money from.
I'll pay that $50, buddy, and then we'll go grab some Philly cheesesteaks or something.
There you go.
And you brought up our small audience, but we do have a loyal audience, and we appreciate each one of them. And by the way, Will, if you like this episode, and we would really appreciate the support, please, on Spotify or on Apple, leave a review. Tell us how we did. It helps spread it outside our little community from Trail Avenue and share it with the rest of the world. Because I think what Glenn talked about today can help a lot of different people throughout this world. And that message of hope Brent's talking about, something that clearly we need to hear more of day to day. And so I appreciate each one of you guys. You've been good friends, and I think we have a good thing we're doing. And so we'll have this podcast up Sunday night. And anyway, appreciate you guys. Anything else you want to add before we sign off?
I'm good.
All right.
Nice to see you.
Thank you, Glenn. Thank you so much, man.
We love you,
Thanks,
buddy.
guys.
So good to see you, bud.
Love you, buddy.